Alrighty. Good morning, y'all. Hope you're having a great day so far. My name is Junaid Siddiqui. I'll be moderating this event. I'm going to get out of your way real quick and hand it off to Katharina Zeller for her presentation.
Hi, welcome to this presentation about creating a patient-centered mobile app to track the quality of life of cancer patients. This way. Okay. Hi, yeah, I'm Katharina Zeller. I'm a software developer at Mulet Service GmbH. It's in Heilbronn, Germany. At first, I'd like to talk with you about what is quality of life. So the definition by WHO is an individual's perception of their position in their life in the context of the culture and value system in which they live and in a relation to their goals, expectations, standards, and concerns. For our case, health-related quality of life is important. This describes the influence of the disease and the therapy on the quality of life of the patient. Currently, it has been shown that documenting quality of life as part of the treatment has positive effects of the life expectancy. So it is already included in a lot of treatments, but it's currently done via questionnaires and patient diaries and via their indices. But usually, at least in Germany, questionnaires will be done by hand on paper every 2 months when you visit your doctor. And the patient diaries also by hand. So we created an app that is focused on the regular survey of quality of life in cancer patients. It documentates the restrictions via medical questionnaires, and it has a diary feature. We also have an evaluation going on to see if we can measure quality of life in alternative ways without having the patient fill out lengthy questionnaires every so often. As you can see in the screenshot, our app is currently only available in German, so all screenshots will also be in German. Some technical aspects. Our front end is done with a React Native app. It's available for iOS and Android. For rendering the questionnaires, we use a stencil web component, which we render inside a web view in the app. Our backend is a proxy to the FHIR server. It prepares the resources for the server and the app. It handles all score calculations and is an authorization interceptor. We have a FHIR server, and for authentication, we use the Keycloak server. From this point, I'm going to take you through our process of developing the app, and I'm going to tell you the problems we faced along the way. So in our first iteration, which was also the longest iteration, taking nearly a year, we developed the base app and added the first features of the questionnaire. We used the QC30, which is the current gold standard for documenting quality of life, and added the diary feature. This ended with a user test of 6 weeks, which was focused mainly on evaluation, user engagement, and usability. Here on the screenshot, you can see a score calculation as it looked at that time. As a result of the first, it's a user test, we decided to change our questionnaire because the QLQ has 30 questions, which is not really feasible to do all the time by a patient if we really want them to do the questionnaire 2 or 3 times a week. So we changed it to the EQ5D, which is only 5 questions long, and also has a possibility of score calculation. We also had a lot of improvements to our diary function. And actually, through user feedback, we realized some things that, for example, our FHIR resource we used an observation for the diary. It was not properly thought through. So we, in the beginning, meshed together the title and the nodes of the app inside the value string of the observation. We realized after the user feedback that that was not so smart because the title has a lot more value than just being a text we display. So user said that we would like to have titles we can reuse. So we don't have to type the same thing all the time. So we added something, we added categories, and the user can still write in a free title, which then will be added in an extension, which is labeled as other, but has a free display of text. Yeah, but during this process, we found some issues because we handled our discussion of the resource in tickets. And sometimes it was not clear where was the latest version of the resource definition. So yeah, we had no version control, basically. So at this point, we realized we need an implementation guide, even though we currently have 2 resources. The next iteration, we focused on adding self-observations. So these are for our evaluation of method. So you add a lot of different entries like sleep, weight, the symptoms the patient has, but it's all singularly, so you don't have a questionnaire. Here you can see something interesting. So we have the feature of adding a mood. So we already had this before. It was part of the diary. There it was an extension to the observation. But now we wanted to make it possible for the patient to enter how they felt, just how was the mood over the entire day. And we used our extension and transferred it as to an observation. So we could reuse a lot of things. We also reused that extension with a different label to add the stress level of someone had, for example, for a symptom. If it's, because sometimes you have a strong symptom, but it might not be as stressful for you, or a very light symptom might be very stressful for you because it doesn't let you do things you want to do. This was also the stage where we changed our backend into a proxy server. Beforehand, our backend had very limited functionality, mainly dealing with the score calculation, but it didn't have any interactions with the FHIR server or with anything besides the app. But we got the feedback that users had a bad internet connection, which is actually quite common in Germany, at least if you use mobile phones. It takes a long time to load, basically. So we changed it so the app would only request at the backend to get the score calculation, and the backend would handle all the transactions with the FHIR server, the authorization, and all of this, which resulted that the app would only ask once, and before it asked like 4 or 5 times to get all the resources needed for the calculation. In our next iteration, we wanted to make it a bit more flexible for the user. So we added a Google Fit and Apple Health connection, currently only for activity. And we also did more score calculations, which we needed for the evaluation. I want to go a bit more into the connection we have with on our connection with Google Fit and Apple Health. So our process is this. So when the user opens the page, the overview page of all values they entered, it automatically triggers a call to the Google Fit and the Apple Health APIs. And this is done over a period of time since the last activity was recorded. This is then split into, like, if it's a long period, we split it into different sections, because also it can take a long time if you have a really large amount of resources you request. Like a colleague was on holiday and did a lot of walking, and I think it took him multiple minutes till all resources was loaded for it. So we then take all these activities and transfer them into our resources, and then send the whole bundle we created to the backend. A lesson we learned when doing these connections, and also actually when getting our app published, is calculate a lot of time in your to get everything approved, because usually there will be questions you have to respond to, and also Google and Apple usually have a lot of things they have to handle till they can get to your questions. So plan for a lot of time. Yeah. So where do we want to go here from here on? So we have something we call personalized questions. So as I've mentioned, we have this evaluation going, and currently it calculates a score and compares it to the QLQ, which the users that take part in this evaluation fill out every month or two. And it compares this, and if it notices that it doesn't add up exactly, we want to add questions to make sure we calculate it correctly. This is a feature which we hopefully will add very soon. Also, as of a request of patients, we want to add the functionality of a fatigue diary, because currently we just have the option of adding just a general note, how was your day, what did you experience, or did you go to the doctor? And patients requested to be able to properly add, with different values, have a possibility of recording their fatigue. Yeah, and also currently the data is only at the can only be requested by the patient. There's no possibility of connecting to their physicians. So right now they would have to go to their appointment and show their phone and be like, hey, so this was how I like my scores for the last few weeks. Can you give me feedback? In the future, we want to make this a bit more flexible for everyone so that they can share their data before going to their doctor. And this is something we are also currently in the planning stages to realize. And yeah, here you can contact me during the, well, till tomorrow and after as well. Yeah, the feedback link you probably already know. And yeah, any questions?
Thank you, Katharina. Any questions from within the room? Oh, sorry. Thank you.
Trying to hide not to just repeat the very last thing you said, but could you talk a little bit more about the strategies for connecting to health professionals, presumably through their electronic health record, or how are you thinking about that?
It probably will result in that we offer a platform where they can connect to the data. We're not entirely sure yet because we are thinking through some things and how we can actually get through the KISS systems, because they tend to be very restricted in who they allow access to. We currently think it will be a platform they can register at, like the physicians can register at, and all the data would be shared through this, but it's not entirely certain yet.
Anyone else? Oh, great. I think I saw your.
A small question about user retention, because, well, from our organization, we are also developing mobile apps that work with FHIR. An example is a suicide prevention app, and their user retention, so keeping the user also involved in the app for a longer time. Just ask myself, maybe if you can also say some words about that, if you have thought about also for the long run for the app, how the user retention can be achieved.
So actually part of that first user test we had was trying to find different ways to get the user attention. We actually decided to focus basically on the main functionalities of the app. We also have push notifications to, like, if we notice someone hasn't added anything in a certain amount of days, they will get a push notification to remind them. We plan to do this so a bit more flexible in the future. So, for example, currently it's every 7 days. but we want to make sure that like a user could also select saying, hey, I want to be reminded every Tuesday or every Thursday at a certain time that I want inside. But yeah, this is also a thing we are still looking into.
Are you planning on also connect to other Fit devices like smartband or smartwatch?
So the good thing about Google Fit is that it connects with everything. So this is why we decided to use it. You might know about the developments because we want to change to Health. Is it Health Connect in the future, because Google Fit is going to be discontinued. But as we currently use this as part of the evaluation method, we will stay with Google Fit for the next year till we actually know for sure that we're going to keep this feature in the app.
I do have a question as well. Did you find that the Google Fit or Apple Health required you to start keeping track of more information that you initially weren't at the beginning in order to integrate with their systems?
We get some more information than we actually need because the activity resources sometimes have more information, we just don't read them. But actually, like we could focus pretty much just on the activity, which is quite useful. I think this can be a thing if you actually, one surprising thing is on Apple, you need a lot of permissions just to access the activities, which sometimes I think is a bit strange for the user if they know we just want the movement data and then they ask for like 6 different permissions. But it is possible to focus exactly on this.
Our resource.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Oh, one back there.
How generic is this application and the rendering of the questionnaire? Because is it dedicated, the visual rendering of the questionnaire, is it specific for the questionnaire we chose? Or can we instantiate any questionnaire and it will render?
The component we use is actually something else we develop. It's an open source renderer. You can use it for any FHIR questionnaire, basically. You just need the resource to define the resource previously, but you can use it for any.
Great. Anybody else? If not, thank you so much for your time, Katharina, and give her a hand.